Alright, this is Gab's collection. Today I'm going to be looking at this Star Wars The Black Series Mace Windu action figure by Hasbro. And I did get this figure loose, so it did not come with a box. I bought it secondhand off a seller, and unfortunately, I did have to pay standard full price for it. It was just the best option for me because there weren't any better options around at the time. And with this one, I was sure that the eyes were aligned, so that was important to me. So I got it without the box, and I don't know if I regret that, but I am not really a box collector, I guess. I always have the figures out of the box, so it doesn't really matter unless I'm gonna sell the figure. And I don't think I'm gonna sell this because I like this figure. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say that I like it. The thing that I don't like, you can already see, the hood. The hood is not good, but let's first talk about the likeness of the figure. So, this is supposed to be Mace Windu from Attack of the Clones, I think? But really, he just looks like this in Revenge of the Sith as well. Yes, he does look different in Phantom Menace because the robes, I think, are gray. But this is how he looks in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, so it could be either. Now, the face. The face is exceptional. It's a bit hard to show because of my terrible lighting here in my room, but that face looks like Samuel Jackson. That looks like Samuel Jackson, a perfect likeness of Samuel Jackson. Really, how you could get better than that. Unfortunately, it's a bit shiny. The way that they painted it with the digital printing tech, the photoreal printing tech, is a bit shiny. So, in person, it doesn't look as shiny as it does on camera for whatever reason, but that's an unmistakable likeness of Samuel Jackson. I don't know who else that would be if not him, but that's perfect. It's the perfect Mace Windu head sculpt, and it's painted really well with that digital printed tech. Right, let's talk about articulation now. Let's just get that robe out of the way first. Let's take the lightsaber out of his hand. And I think he actually looks better without the robe. But we have the arms. The arms go all the way out. And there's what I believe is called a butterfly joint in there as well. So you can go in and out there. And because this is actually a separate soft rubbery piece, this outer tunic here, it doesn't hinder the articulation as much as it probably would if it was, if this was a hard one mold piece. So it goes out that far, which is, I guess, far enough. That's usually how far they go anyway. It goes a bit higher than 90 there. And then it goes forward, goes back, or like that, and like that. The elbows go up, past 90. A bit past 90. And that's good because the other ones that I have only go up to 90, the other Black Series figures that I have. And I can't tell if it's because of his puffy sleeve that it looks like it's going past 90, but it sort of does look like it's going beyond 90, which is good for a lightsaber wielding character. They swivel there. There is a hinge. There is a hinge, so you can go up and down that way, not this way, but that way. And what else? At the waist, he goes all the way around there. That's really nice. It's very free, that motion. This bottom skirt and belt are all a separate piece again, just like this one is. So this is a separate overlay. This is also a separate overlay. So it goes all the way around like that. So you can get a good range. Goes that far back and that far forward. And goes to the side, to the side. That's really good. And his legs, because it's cut here at the side, go all the way up there, and that's very high that he can kick to the side. And same for the other side. He goes that far forward again because this is a separate piece. It's really well done. It doesn't hinder the articulation, and it's so soft as well. And it goes only that far back without bending the knee. Swivel at the thigh, so you can swivel that there. With the knee, it's a double jointed knee, so it goes there, all the way up, and that's good. Again, I'm not sure why people want knees to go all the way up. I guess if you wanted to do a kneeling pose, that would be important, like a 2-knee kneeling pose. I don't know, but yeah, it's good that the knee goes all the way up, I guess. And with the ankle, you've got your standard rocking ankle there, goes up and down, standard stuff. And of course the rocker always means that he can do a wider stance. And at first I had a hard time balancing him, but now it seems to be not much of a problem as it was when I first handled him, so maybe it just needed a bit of futzing around. The head, forgot to talk about articulation for the head, but it goes... I thought there would be a hinge, but there's not a hinge on the head. It's now on a ball joint. I guess that's how they do things now, because this is a newer figure. So the head goes around that much. It's very fluid feeling, the head. But it's also, there's a separate neck joint. So the neck also moves. I just always want to make sure that the Adam's apple is aligned at the front. But he can look up that far, which isn't that... it's not very far that he can look up. So he can look up that much. He can look down... I'm trying to do it without moving his torso. So he can look up that much. He can look down that much. And it's not as far as the other figures. With the other figures, they can look all the way down with just their chin. But I guess he makes up for it by having this articulation being so free. So you can actually just look down like that if he was going to look down. And I guess that looks pretty natural. That looks pretty natural if you're trying to get him to look down. If you're trying to let him to look up, you can bend his torso so that his head can face up. So I guess it's not too much of an issue that there's not a full hinge in there. In terms of detailing, this tunic, I really like how it's sculpted. It's probably the best sculpting that I've personally seen on a Hasbro, outfit. I guess I just haven't seen that many. But in terms of a Jedi robe, there's a lot of depth here. It looks like a lot of layers. It looks very convincing. It looks like fabric even. That's always a good thing with these, because the thing that I don't like about not having soft goods is that there's always these joints everywhere. And yes, you can see the joints, but this looks very natural to me. It looks very fabric-like, and it looks like it flows quite well. Even if you have the legs sticking out there, this still flows really well. The skirt piece, even if you have this going up, this still flows pretty well. It still looks natural to me, so I really like that. There's lots of little... you can see the threads in there, the weave pattern there. So you can see the rough spun fabric, and that's quite nice. I like the detail in this. I like the sharpness of the detail there. And this inside piece, because it's separate, they didn't really have to make sure that this was a clean paint. They just went all white on the inside to a certain point. Then it's this beige color. Then they just go over it with this rubber piece. So it looks very clean, and it looks like it has depth, because it actually does. This does have depth. But this is just one piece, even though it has all these things here. The belt is part of this bottom skirt piece, and it's painted cleanly, I suppose, but they could have done more weathering on it. Again, we like weathering. They could have done a wash maybe and a bit of dry brushing to give it more of a leather look, because they have done really good leather look belts in the past, Black Series has. So they could have done it. They didn't. That's a shame. The other thing that's not on there that should be there is the belt clip. The clip for his lightsaber. So his lightsaber, there's nowhere to put it, which is unfortunate, because in the movie there is a clip on his belt for his saber. So this is what it looks like at the back. I've heard somebody say that the belt isn't accurate. Like there's actually a pouch that's not supposed to be there, and then the clip isn't there. So it's a bit odd that they would overlook that, considering it wouldn't really take much extra plastic to put the clip there and to put the peg on the saber hilt. So it's a bit of a shame that they didn't add in that extra detail there. Now, in terms of the pants, there's no wash there, so it's really just the sculpting where you get the detail, but it is good. What is there is good. It probably looked better with a wash, but he didn't have the dirtiest robes, Mace. He kept his clothes pretty clean. His boots, I think there's a bit of paint on the boots, but I can't really tell, but there definitely is a texture on there that it's sort of a crosshatch pattern that sort of suggests leather. And that's nice. It could do with a bit of a wash, these boots, definitely would bring out, because there's some buckles here that would pop really nicely if you did a wash on the boots. But enough about that. The hands are sculpted well, if you're wondering. So there's lots of veining in there, which is pretty realistic. Now the saber, because I bought it secondhand, I don't really know what the previous owner has done with this saber, but it feels like it's like it's gonna break at the peg. So there's like a bit of stress there, and I don't know. It just feels like it's gonna break if I overwork it. So it does detach the saber. I mean, the blade does detach from the hilt. The hilt is detailed really nicely, much better than the Obi-Wan Clone Commander hilt that I have. I don't know what it is about that, but it just doesn't look as good as this. I guess because this one looks like they cast it in a gray plastic, but they also painted over it with a more chromy, silvery color. So that's what makes this look so good, I guess. And there's also a very shiny, very nice gold there. And the black lines are painted on reasonably cleanly, not the best, but pretty well. So it doesn't look too bad. And there's that black tip there, that black button there, which might be what's supposed to be the peg. And then you've got this black bit here and a bit of gold on the top. So overall, it's pretty sharp. This hilt looks pretty sharp to me. It looks pretty good. It looks very metallic, which is what you want for a lightsaber. So again, the purple blade pops in there, and like I said, it feels like it's gonna snap. I think it's because the way that they sculpted it, it doesn't. Well, I guess that's how Mace's hilt looks, but the top of the hilt actually tapers to here, so your blade has to come out that way, and that's what this is. So there's not support. There's nothing on the outside of the blade, sort of cupping it so that it goes straight like that. So because it sort of goes out this way, it's flimsy. There's a very narrow, it's just the peg. There's too much stress on the peg on this. So I wish they could have found a way around that, but for accuracy's sake, they probably did the best that they could. But just be wary of your Mace Windu lightsaber, because I can see that if you drop this, if you drop it while he's holding it, it would probably snap here, and then that would be terrible, and you wouldn't have a very nice lightsaber then if that happened. The other accessory that he comes with, aside from the lightsaber, is his robe. So the robe, I am a fan of soft goods. I do like soft goods more than, I wouldn't have liked it if they just did a rubber brown Jedi robe over him or whatever. But it looks good except for the hood and the sleeves, which is really always the problem with these. I think they could have picked a softer fabric than this, and with a softer fabric you would have had a better flow. I definitely could make a better looking robe than this if I spent the time, but for a figure that's not, that's relatively cheap, I guess it's fine. But again, because I'm in Australia, no Black Series figure is actually cheap for me, because there's all these import fees, so they end up being about 50 Australian by the time they get here, including shipping, because they can't just go out to a store and pick these up, because they always go out of stock, because there's so few of them stocking them here for some reason. So if you try putting the hood on his head, sometimes you can get it to look good. Most of the time, not so much. So it's just like floating over his forehead there. If I were to probably soak this in water, I could probably get it to lay, because this is how it's supposed to lay down, obviously, but every time I let it go, it just pops up like that. And the other thing is, because there's stitching here on the sides, to help it lay properly when the hood is up, you actually can't pull it down and make it look natural. And that's a shame, because that's how he often wore it. I try to pull his hood back, it just pops up like that. And that's a shame. So I probably would have to tuck the hood. That doesn't even work if I try to tuck the hood behind him. It probably looks fine at first glance, but you can tell that I just tucked his hood into the pen, and he has like a big hunchback there. So that's a bit of a shame. They probably could have put a wire in there, and then that would have gotten around the problem, because then you could have it up, it would stay. Then if you had the wire, you can also make it go down, it would also stay. So yeah, the robe is probably the weakest part of this figure because of the hood. Some people don't like the sleeves. I think the sleeves are fine. That's how the sleeves are supposed to look. But again, because this fabric is a bit stiff, it sticks out like that. So to make it look natural, you have to do a lot of spraying with water, probably. Maybe even I'm not sure what he would use. Fabric softener, probably, to soften this fabric. If you wanted to always just have his hood pulled back, you could probably stitch, you know, to cut these threads here and then stitch that to the back so that it would look natural, but it's just a shame that we would have to do that. I guess it's just always been a problem with this scale, so I guess that's why a lot of companies opt for plastic in this case. I really like that it has soft goods, it's just it wasn't executed the best way. But there he is, that's Mace Windu, and overall it's a pretty good figure. Again, the robe is a bit of a hindrance to making it the perfect figure, and the lack of peg for the lightsaber is just, it's just bewildering to me. It's so strange. It's such a strange thing for them not to put there. So I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I have pretty low standards for these things, and I'm just so impressed by the head sculpts, and the sculpting detail is just so excellent that I'm just willing to overlook other gripes that I may have. So I'm pretty forgiving when it comes to toys, mostly because I already spent the money on them. Then I sort of have to justify why I spent the money. And that is a cognitive dissonance psychology thing. But I really like it. Especially like this. If you know, if I figured out a way to get the hood to lay naturally. He looks really good like this. It really reminds me of Mace Windu when he's arresting Palpatine. And this just makes me want to, you know, look forward to their releasing a Revenge of the Sith Palpatine during the Sabre duel. That would be really nice to have Mace Windu versus Palpatine. But as he is, this Mace Windu figure is quite nice. I was able to crumple it up so that his hood stays back there. But it's overall an excellent figure. It looks a lot like Mace Windu. Exactly. I would even say it's a perfect likeness of Samuel Jackson as Mace Windu. I can say that, I think. The robes are perfectly sculpted. It's a perfect head. The only thing that keeps it from being perfect as a figure is the lack of peg for the saber and the cloak, and that's it. And probably they could have done a bit of more of a dry brushing around the boots, but it's almost a perfect figure. And Black Series, Hasbro is really stepping up their game with these figures. A Black Series Off-World Jawa, and here is an Archive Series Anakin Skywalker. So it looks like Anakin and Mace are roughly the same height. Anakin is actually a bit taller. No, Anakin is taller. And I'm not sure if that's accurate to the movies or to real life. Like, is Hayden Christensen actually taller than Samuel Jackson? I don't know why, but in the camera, definitely there's a big height difference. But maybe it's the angle that I'm doing this at. In person, it looks like they're the same height. They're like essentially the same height, but on the camera it's pretty obvious that Anakin's taller and has a bigger head. So I don't know if Hayden Christensen actually does have a big head and he's a bit taller. I guess I'll show you the stats on the screen so you can see for yourself. It's great that they were able to figure out a way to do the digital face printing without actually increasing the price on these figures, because if they had increased the price, I probably wouldn't have picked any of these up. The fact that they're still basically the original price, the same price as the old traditionally painted ones, makes these worth, in my opinion, a lot more than we're actually paying for them. Definitely with Mace Windu, it's a perfect likeness. I can say it's a perfect likeness. Not so with the other Black Series figures, but with Mace Windu, I think with Sith Head Anakin, it's definitely almost a perfect Hayden Christensen. With the Clone Commander Obi-Wan, it looked a lot like Ewan McGregor, so they're just getting better and better with these things. And I'm really looking forward to getting my Count Dooku and my other pre-orders because they're getting so good. And I guess that's it. I don't want to waffle on too much, so I guess I'll just see you in the next video. I'm not sure which figure I'm going to tackle next, but I have a lot of figures on their way. So thanks for sticking around.